Hello, everyone. I'm Brian Taylor of the Recycling Today Media Group. It's my pleasure to be involved here on day 4 of International Recycling Week. I'm here to talk to William Turley, the founder and executive director of the United States-based Construction and Demolition Recycling Association, CDRA. That national trade association represents recyclers of discarded construction materials and demolition debris. The 25-year-old association promotes recycling and reuse and provides an information exchange on practices involving the recycling of concrete, asphalt, gypsum, wood, roofing materials, and other related materials. In the US, when it comes to C&D recycling, Bill Turley has pretty much helped define that sector and help make it a viable part of the larger recycling industry. Bill, welcome.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate the introduction.
You're very welcome. I think the place to start is at the beginning, as I guess is often said. Why did you help start the CDRA, which originally was the CMRA? And how would you describe the state of C&D recycling in the US in the mid-1990s compared to today?
Sure. Some years ago, the US federal government came and asked us to when I was working for a magazine company, to put on a show on this newfangled stuff of recycling construction materials. We thought it was going to be a nothing. And my boss at the time gave me the job of setting up the meeting. Well,
Okay.
300 people showed up. We realized we were on to something then. So from there, about a year or two later, a bunch of the people in the industry realized that we have a nascent industry and that we need to move it forward. And we needed to have an association. They said, Bill, you seem to know everybody and everything about it so far, more than most people at the time. And I was asked to form though I'd never run an association, I was asked to form it. And, here we are 27 years or whatever later, and I get to be interviewed by Brian Taylor. So it must have been a success along the way.
I guess so. If that's your yardstick, yeah.
Yeah. So in the 90s, the first meeting was held in Chicago, and we talked mostly about concrete recycling and asphalt recycling, mostly concrete and asphalt and all that kind of stuff. We didn't talk about the other materials. I think what has come, the difference between the couple of things from the mid-1990s till now is that concrete recycling is still very big. By weight, is the most recycled material in the United States by far, and it's doing well, and it really has relatively few problems and issues that we have to deal with, that we still do. But the other materials, mixed C&D, your building materials your wood and your shingles and all that, that has grown in the meantime to become more important. What do I think about what we used to do then to recycle those kind of materials? It's like a Model T to a Tesla. And, from today, the systems that we are having to see in the United States, we're not Europe, where they have even better ones, but we're starting to see the opticals and the robotics and that kind of stuff. And it's really quite amazing to how we can separate it. The challenge, of course, remains end markets.
Right. Okay. Well, certainly the U.S. is pretty much known around the world as a very market-based recycling industry. There's some involvement from government, and especially depending on which of the 50 states a person lives. But in North America, what policies or market incentives have been most effective in boosting concrete recycling? I'll start with
Concrete
that material.
recycling. I'm a huge fan of concrete recycling. I think the best thing is there's really been no requirement from the government to use it, except that in some contracts is put in that if the recycled road base, which is the most common end market for concrete in the United States, the recycled road base is available, it meets the spec, and it's the same price or cheaper than natural aggregate, then you have to use it or something like that. But probably the best market driver for recycled concrete remains state Department of Transportation setting up specifications for the use of the material. If you give them a spec and make them meet it, and then usually the recycled base can be a little bit cheaper, you can save the taxpayers a lot of money by using that in our roads. So I think that is probably the best thing for concrete recycling that's happened.
Okay, terrific. Yeah, the organization that's put on this event, Waste and Recycling Middle East and Africa, they're based in Dubai, where there's about as much concrete per square mile as anywhere. So that's encouraging to know that we have the knowledge and we have the ability. You just need the specs.
I've been contacted by Dubai, you all over in the Mideast over the years. People saying, "How do I recycle this?" And I've sent them back information and all that. Oh, I believe you, Brian. It is very active, that market there.
one thing Dubai also, or the Middle East, has in common with the middle of the United States is a lot of open land. So I guess a question that leads me to think of is, how do landfill rates and widespread landfill availability, how does that affect C&D recycling rates? And if that
Yeah.
is the circumstance, what can you do to overcome that?
Yeah, and that's the problem. It's if it's cheaper to dump it, you're going to dump it. Okay, I mean that's just I feel worldwide. I think is an issue, and that happens in our areas as well. In Europe, they recycle a heck of a lot more than all of us because their recycling rates are $100-$200 a ton or whatever. Some ridiculous
landfill rates. Yeah.
Yeah, landfill disposal rates. So that that makes it far more economic. Plus, they have stricter regulations, but that's another whole lecture. So for us, the landfill rates are really affecting us. And even then, it doesn't really matter because if you're in the Northeast United States, if you think about it, which is very crowded and urban and all that, there's nowhere to put landfills anymore. There's a tremendous amount of rail traffic, just train loads full of garbage heading from there all the way into Ohio, where everything is in the middle of the country and it's wide open and there's landfills for $6 and $8 a ton to dump. So it's cheaper just to ship it there. So that is what we're fighting here as far as getting landfill rates. However, yes, it does. What can be done over that is there's little you can do except to incentivize the end markets because wherever you are, but sometimes you just can't get to that. We're going to talk a little later about gypsum, I hope, but that's an example of the problem.
Okay. Something that's evolved during our careers in the industry has been the green building movement.
Right.
Really, I don't remember that even being a term in the mid-90s. That seems to have brought more attention to C&D materials recycling. Has it prompted more C&D recycling activity in the U.S.?
With the USGBC began the LEAD program, it did incentivize parts of the country to set up some kind of at least small time recycling operations, dump and pick or whatever for building materials. Again, not concrete and asphalt, for building materials. For the rest of the building materials, I should say, like your carpet or your wood or whatever. So you did see that kind of that helped a little bit, but basically, whenever they could find an end market, they were able to they did it. Okay, so green building did help, but you're not going to see that throughout the rest of the world. Also, under the green building USGBC's LEAD program, there's been a lot of how should I say this, fake recycling. There's been claims of recycling when the recycling didn't happen. That's why we had to set up a certification organization to prove that this material is being recycled. Otherwise, the lying was going to continue under the LEAD program. And I hope that where this is being broadcast to, that they recognize that they need to check to make sure, if you're going to do a LEAD program, make sure your material is actually getting recycled. And the guy isn't just telling you, oh, yeah, I recycled. You got a 90% recycling rate. No. Be careful.
Certainly sounds like very good advice. This isn't one of the questions that I sent you ahead of time, so this will be an impromptu answer. But you've mentioned concrete, and I suspect asphalt falls in this category. What are the materials that you would say the market is handling those well? And then what are the materials where you say, well, without some government or corporate sustainability involvement, it's a pretty low recycling rate. Where does that divide right now?
Right there. Okay. Concrete and asphalt is highly recyclable. Of course, metals, and you are the expert on metals, I defer. But after that, it gets a little bit tricky as far as what we can and can't recycle. I mean, in the U.S. anyway, excuse me, in parts of the U.S. anyway, the some markets are better than others, like drywall, which is if I had $1 for every time somebody asked me where can I recycle my drywall, I would be probably at Tahiti by now. But we're seeing a tremendous growth in that market. I'll be glad to talk about that later. But that remains a challenge outside of certain areas of the country where it's most beneficial use is agricultural. You put it down, it affects the pH. It's a tremendous value. Asphalt shingles were doing very well because you use it back in the hot mix asphalt. It's most common in market. Then they had some problems because that it was overused. They put too many shingles in and the road failed. So now nobody wants to have a failed road. So they just got rid of they blamed the material instead of the guy who put together the material, the hot mix. Stuff like that remains a challenge for everything. I mean, I could go through the list of, but we don't have an hour and a half. We have 15 minutes. You know what I mean? All of them remain a challenge for various reasons in the U.S.
So it sounds like in the U.S., the gypsum drywall, also called wallboard, that there's been some progress there, and that's been recent in the last 5 years. Or what can you say about that market that's improved?
Materials I'll talk about on that. Drywall is doing pretty well. It's not taken back yet by the manufacturers to make new drywall, but I feel that they are moving toward that. The drywall industry realized they're going to have to do the close the loop. Okay. So, but in the meantime, we have seen the end market. There's a tremendous amount of wanting to, when you've got, like in California, you've got Google and Apple and all those big companies putting up their headquarters. They want to see that material. They want to see it all recycled. And they are big drivers of the business. So they drove a development of a market there. The other thing that we're seeing, so I'm saying that the producers of the drywall might be taking it back or trying to work with them in order to, for shingles, we've already just recently seen that GAF, which is a big North American company that makes shingles, announced that they're going to do their own closed loop system, invest $100 million to put in machinery at their manufacturing plants to take in post-consumer shingles that have been processed to a specification they have and put it in new shingles. And I expect the other shingle manufacturers to step forward. My point is that'll drive the market even better for this, because they realize that they got to look good to the public. I think that's one of the main reasons driving it, but and also corporate responsibility.
Well, those are important steps. You can put something aside hoping to recycle it, but unless somebody's going to complete the process, you feel good without having accomplished anything, I guess.
End markets. It's all about end markets, Brian. You know that.
Well, I'll quickly divert, because some of our I think our viewers will be folks who are involved in office, commercial recycling, kind of those little tenant strip outs, ceiling tiles and flooring. Is there much to be hopeful there more? Yeah,
Armstrong is as tried to do the take back program, and we had fits and starts with that. There's several challenges with it. I think ceiling tiles are going to remain a challenge for a while. Flooring, vinyl flooring and all that, we don't really have a market for it. Carpet is trying to do better. I think the carpet manufacturers want to recycle the material. The challenge is that now we've discovered that PFAS are in there. And that's what on our industry where PFAS are, and they're nasties, okay?
Those are the so-called forever chemicals.
Yeah, one of those just lovely little things that you don't want to get, but they are in there. And that's for us in the C&D stream where we're going to see it more, that and shingles maybe. But the point being that, so PFAS are going to be a problem for carpet, but carpet does have a few, and that's getting a little bit better, but it's still very small. And I don't, so is it going to be over in the Mideast? Oh my God,
So politely, you can say it's a growth market.
It's going to be even more challenging for them to set it up, I feel. And I don't mean to be denigrating. It's just, I know what it's like to develop the market.
Yeah, it's hard work. I'm going to close with a question I think you said you found intriguing. What statistic or industry practice established in the past 25 years or so gives you satisfaction, that C&D recycling has made some genuine progress?
I'm very proud of the fact that the MSW, your curbside materials and all that waste stream is about 240 million tons a year generated in the United States. Well, I forget what EPA it was, but it's around. EPA, U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, estimated that C&D was about 600 million tons. They are estimating that MSW is recycled at a rate of 30% at most or something like that in the United States. C&D is recycled at a rate of over 70%. Yes, a lot of that because of the aggregate, but we are the ones driving the recycling. We get no credit for it, but we are the ones who are driving this recycling rate up in the United States. And I think that is something that we should be proud of.
All right, very good. I think you've set the table very nicely. It's day 4 of International Recycling Week. And although C&D may be the last of day, it is certainly not last in terms of volume and importance. I think you agree with that sentiment, Bill.
Oh, definitely, Brian. Thank you for this. This is great.
Yeah, Bill, thank you for your insight. I wish we had more time, but I think you've helped, as I say, set the table nicely for the next several hours of programming that will follow. William Turley, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.